Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We are back here with episode 2. I've got a lot of people here in the chat from 7th Station. We have Vidi, we have Dima, and we have Eren, and we're talking about Heal The Unhealed. Then we're going to the next track, which is 7 Digits on the playlist here. And I was wondering who wants to start out with this one? What is this track about? Like, how does this work within the frame of the album?
7 Digits refer to being stamped with numbers. Back in the time of the Holocaust in the concentration camps, not as a human individual being, but almost like some data on somebody's Excel sheet, basically, today. Which is very dehumanizing. And of course, in contrast of the tyranny of some other part of the world, we recognize some also other tyranny and all that power tripping and false beliefs and all that basically psychosis causing so much pain to other people, and we try to capture that in 3 different languages in the same song. Props to Vidi for pulling it off, and Vidi and Dima will continue from there.
That makes sense. Vidi, was that something that came up as you were writing? Like, what was the idea behind that?
The different languages we have in the record. We have English, we have Hebrew, we have Russian, and we have Italian. The idea of using different languages was an act of miscommunication.
Oh.
The idea was to, in some sense, alienate the listener from realizing what is going on purpose. Because we were talking about people becoming more aggressive towards each other when they don't understand each other. When you meet dogs, you know, the big Rottweilers and stuff, and unfortunately people cut their ears off and their tail off. So other dogs cannot really understand the language of their body movement, and this becomes more tense because you don't know what you are standing in front of. There were a few layers about this thing with the languages, why we chose each language when, but my big idea was, right now you don't understand what I'm saying, or right now I don't understand what this person is reading in the radio. What does it make me feel? And we actually saw that. It was interesting from an artistic point of view when all the reviews came out. A lot of people said, I don't like the record because there's too much Russian there. I cannot understand what they're saying.
Wow.
And this stresses me out to listen to political manifests in a different language. The political manifest in the middle of the record in Russian is not a real one. It's from a movie. It never happened.
One of them.
So the idea is all the time creating some sort of an aggression and a little bit manipulating with the listener's emotions. I can understand the music, I cannot understand the voice. I can understand the music, I cannot understand the manifest. I'm not in a stable place. I'm not in a secure place.
It's kind of like the whole discussion that's going around society in general about polarization and exclusion. It's a way to exclude people, basically. It's like, oh, you thought you understood this song. Well, too bad. Now it's a different language. You. You know, exactly. Like that does something to the listener in a way. I get the point. Yeah. Dima, I'm looking at you in this case. Like, was that something that you had in mind when the music was being written? Was that a part of the original idea, or was that something that came in later?
I think this idea was always presented in 7th Station, because 7th Station was never a band that coming from one country. In some points, we counted how many languages we all together know, and this is around 20.
Jesus.
I mean,
that's a lot of languages.
I mean, I myself know 5, so...
Wow, yeah.
I think this is part of the beauty of having international band, is that you can communicate in different languages. We all know, because all of us know few languages at least, we all know that each language has its own beauty in certain moments.
Right.
We can combine this power and exactly express what Vidi was talking about, just in different languages, because we can.
Like, we have this superpower.
Not only that, but also you will see this in previous and upcoming 7th Station releases in a general sense, that we approach this whole thing not particularly from your positive entertainment consumable kind of stuff. We treat it as like an experience.
Yeah.
Where you might experience happiness and joy from listening to something, but you might also get scared, or you might get alienated, or you might be confused, because that's what's going on in the story that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to us because we treat empathy not as a emotion that is only applicable to positiveness and happiness, that people run away from experiences that don't make them laugh or smile. But there's so much to do with music and art that there's a lot of different kind of emotions to go through. And especially coming from a classical music perspective, not everything we listen or we make for other people to listen is purely, let's say, positively enjoyable, so to speak. But
no, not at all. No, exactly.
Sometimes it's supposed to confuse you, or it's supposed to scare you, or it's supposed to make you think how you listen to somebody trying to reach you out in a language that you can't even speak, but they need your help. We are trying to not be in sync with the entertainment positive consumption, so to speak, but rather to tell stories that people can feel that they can be a part of, like watching a movie, basically.
That's kind of what I felt when listening to the record in general. I mean, this was the first album I heard from you guys, and it's funny that you say that, because I also kind of felt the link with, I'm a big Shostakovich fan, for example, you know, the kind of classical music that is willing to go completely bonkers and atonal and just, well, scary, indeed. Like, you know, the kind of stuff that makes you feel uneasy. But that's also where most interesting stuff happens, and obviously I wouldn't be listening to it hours on end, but once in a while it's a really nice thing to, you know, dive into, because then you get to feel things you otherwise might not feel.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel you guys have put that in this record as well. Heading into the next track on the record, which is The Heart of a Nation, Nadia. And I'm wondering who wants to start telling me about the track and what it's all about. Who wants to start?
Me.
Okay, kick it off. What is it about?
The next context has nothing to do with opinions, our personal opinions about history and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I will prove it in the next sentence about this song. So this is The Heart of a Nation. Mm-hmm. It's the first song in what we call the trilogy of this album, which is one of the main topics of this record. Mm-hmm. And actually all this trilogy started as a joke. Like 8 years before even this album was born, we wanted to do arrangement for Dmitri Shostakovich 10th Symphony, the second movement, which is the next track. I know we're talking about this track, but it's connected. I prepared this arrangement for this album, and then as a joke I said, let's add another 2 songs, or I was talking with Vidi, maybe, I don't remember, as a joke. And this joke went too far.
Okay.
So you went to the topics of tyrants and Stalin and all those stuff, but it's actually started with that I just wanted to do the arrangement for Shostakovich, the 10th Symphony, the second movement, because this second movement is a portrait of Stalin, which when we'll talk about this track, we will talk about this track. Back to the Heart of a Nation. Heart of a Nation is a song describing the relationship between Joseph Stalin and his second wife, Nadia, which by some historical records and some documentaries and movies, it was Stalin's love of his life.
Okay.
His second wife. And it was a very toxic relationship.
Oh.
Which ended up in the end that Nadia committed suicide because of him and shot her. She shot herself, in the head. That's why the cover art, it's a gun pointed to her head, because of Stalin. She couldn't endure the pain, seeing to where the country goes, to how Stalin takes control and makes everyone in the country poor, historically.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a little interesting fact, because we are talking about tyrants. Hitler also had a niece that he really loved, and he was forbidding her to be free, and she also commit suicide in the same way.
Oh God.
So I guess there is some line between all tyrants.
Well, to be fair, yeah, it's like I know my share of history, and now that you say that, it's like there's definitely some overlap between tyrants. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so this is the intro. I believe that the guys will complete even more deep.
okay, well, Vidi, like from a writing perspective, what was your approach with the lyrics for this one?
It's a story about a toxic relationship from the eyes of Stalin.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so he looks at her basically, or
He
the
looks
way.
at her and he interprets her behavior the way he does in the story. He's being very paranoid while he gets control and power over the people of the Soviet Union. He's losing control on his own emotions back in his own private house, place, family. And it's about two people. You know this saying about the hell is two people in the same room and no one can give the others what they really need.
Right, yeah, you both have wants, but you're not able to give that to each other, so you're both miserable, basically.
Yeah, that was the main thing. That was the main theme for me to explore, the way he behaves with the person he loves the most, and later on we will meet him the way he behaves towards himself. There are nuances all the time in those three tracks. When we get to All Hail the Mustache, it's the state, him against the state and him against himself.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah, that checks out.
And this is also the peak, the artistic peak of the artist trying to get to his masterpiece, self-destroying everything that he has in order to get there.
Also, like losing grip on reality in a way, right? Like that kind of
Losing grip
situation.
on reality, losing grip on friendships, on loved ones. Everything is being distorted in this myth that you need to sacrifice in order to become great.
And Eren, what was your approach to this song, or your thoughts on this song? Like, what did you contribute to this?
To me, it's very interesting because we are talking about Stalin as a character that lost two wives, shot his own sons and family, and caused a lot of mass destruction, and kind of coming from like a deranged, pure evil kind of point. And his second wife, Nadia, to me is like the last beacon of good in him. And also you can see in the music lyrics and the video itself that when he communicates to his wife, he's talking about how his plans for Soviet Russia and the future are great, and they will be doing amazing things and grandiosity and all these delusions. But he's almost talking to Nadia like he's talking to himself. Nadia knows this about him, and she tries to do her best to support and protect him as a human being, but just the fact that she unfortunately shot herself is almost like the final little bit pieces of good in Stalin just being completely destroyed, giving himself completely away to the psychosis of the power tripping and this deranged idea of the perfect nation and whatnot. I think to him it's hard to empathize, but when I see the lyrics and the video, I see Nadia as the last beacon of hope and the good, and to restrain oneself from your own delusions, basically. But she couldn't handle it, and because he was too gone, he was in the black hole, basically. It's a beautiful story, but it's a heartbreaking one, and unfortunately, again, it caused a lot of damage and negativity to other people. But we see as the tracks go on, if you don't take control of your own mind and let it just roam in the destructive way, that your eyes don't see anything but power. No family, no wife, no kids, no heritage, no goodness, no beliefs, no nothing, basically.
Yeah, you basically lose control of what makes you human then at
Right,
that point.
it's a toxic state of mind, and it's very similar to like Darth Vader becoming Darth Vader and basically losing his entire pure bodily like appearance and functions, and just drinking the poison and letting power take over you just to give yourself up as the life and body and mind to something that was just not tangible at all.
No,
and
exactly.
It was just an illusion in your mind that you were just having this like episode of psychosis or episode of power tripping or episode of trying to prove your own insecurity to the world, which went too extreme. We see a person who's not content with himself, so there's no limits to proving himself to the world. And that causes hearts, as we say, of the nation and his wife and his children, and ultimately the entire demise of the Soviet Union. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but it's interesting because then the heart of a nation in this regard is like, yeah, okay, Nadia it's almost like she's the foil, but it's really about just him losing his humanity in general. Then I would almost say at that point.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned Darth Vader, which obviously it's Star Wars, I suggest everyone who wants to really see what influenced us in this story to watch the 92 movie that you can find actually on YouTube that just called Stalin from the year 92. It's a great movie, and from what I was checking, it's quite accurate to history facts, and it shows greatly this relationship between Stalin and Nadia in general. I really love this movie, and it was big inspiration in this album.
Okay, that's good to know. I think that's a nice little nugget to close off this song with. Heading into the next one, the Ruthless Koba. Now that you mentioned that there's like a bit of a through line through the songs and that it kind of leads towards a certain nasty conclusion, I guess we can already preface that. What was the approach for this song?
That's the best lyrics I've ever written.
Really?
There's one thing about Seven Station is that some composers, whether we knew as of band members each other back in conservatory or not, we are all in fascination and in great respect of composers like Shostakovich, Liszt and Paganini, which we believe that if they were able to live to the times that we live in, they will be total metalheads.
Oh yeah, that would be tech death. Yeah.
They would be shredders. And it's like when we listen to it, we mutually agree that it's metal just without the amplification. They just didn't have it at the time, and the amount of inspiration and impression we have, not only it ties with the story of the Soviet Union perfectly, because Shostakovich at the time was very influenced by what was going on, and he was at the time very afraid. It was rumored for him to have a suitcase by the door of his apartment that he was ready to go and escape at the moment of notice, just in case. His symphonies were banned. His speeches to public were written for him that he completely disagreed in what he said, but he had to give those speeches. So it was a perfect tie-in for the story. Not only that, but for us as musicians, as human beings, that we have so much individual and mutual respect to these composers. And it's almost like this tribute and honoring of our heritage in music. And of course, we believe the rendition of the 10th Symphony's second movement just took it to a whole another level, that we wished Shostakovich was alive to hear it, and we'd like to believe that he would really like it. But we believe that we've made a really honorable and colorful just tribute and respect to somebody who has influenced all of us since basically we started making music.
That is so cool, though. And it's like, in terms of the way a songwriting approach, I mean, Dima, I see you moving in, so feel free to enlighten us.
I think that Eren explained it so perfectly, so I feel like I will be again the nuggets guy. I hope I will not get hungry by saying that.
More nuggets!
I actually love nuggets, but
who doesn't?
There are a few interesting nuggets that I'm sure who love Shostakovich will appreciate it. That actually the track name, the Ruthless Koba, there is a reason why it's called the Ruthless Koba.
Okay.
Because probably you ask yourself, what the hell is Koba?
I was wondering that, yes.
We're me and Eren laughing because we had so many interviews that we already repeated this sentence, so we're like automatically already. So Koba was the nickname of Stalin. You see?
My
no
God.
self-control.
I'm sorry for asking the one thing that's been asked a million times, but I was curious, you know.
So, well, I offered this to you. So,
thank you. Much appreciated.
So Koba was Stalin's nickname, yeah.
Okay.
And we wanted to show the hypocrisy of Stalin because he still had a lot of supporters. So we used friendly name with a very intensive word like ruthless.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that shows the hypocrisy, and we wanted to confuse the people.
Okay,
about it.
That checks
So
out.
this is the other nugget. It's how I found out about Dmitri Shostakovich. I actually, the first time that I hate to admit it, the first time that I heard about Dmitri Shostakovich, it was in my first year of the academy, not before.
Okay.
Because I went through music school, through conservatory, but somehow I missed Shostakovich. So there are a few stories, but I will tell the most interesting nugget. One day we had a lecture about Dmitri Shostakovich.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a woman who came to the academy to tell who was Dmitri Shostakovich. And apparently she was his lover.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the lover of Dmitri Shostakovich came to the Academy of Music in Jerusalem to tell the story about Shostakovich.
Yo.
And a lot of pieces apparently that related to her in his discography. And one more nugget is that she's the grandmother of my bass player, ex-bass player roommate, which is Timur Pel, which is a bass player from Haifa, which also living for years in US and playing with Mike Stern.
Okay.
And she's his grandmother, and we started the academy in the same year and lived in the same dorm.
That is the weirdest connection ever. Also really cool though, but at the same time it's like, what are the odds?
So since then, I'm very related to Shostakovich.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're allowed. Now you're allowed to do whatever the hell you want to that music. You got an alibi now. That's good. Keep it up.
You know, this one is an intense instrumental in the sense that it takes us back to the conservatory days of you have a recital in 6 months of some classical program and you have to practice for it every day.
Yeah.
And performing this classical composition, it's a very fast piece.
It is.
And it's not something you can wing. You have to be accurate, and all of us in the band coming from the classical background, we can immediately hear each other if we didn't practice. Something we carry on from the conservatory days, so we keep each other at the limit and at the bare minimum what we consider as good music, because we come judgmental from the classical days.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that checks
out.
But
it's also a great challenge to feel the intensity of the times while we live in very different times that we cannot match being a composer in the Soviet Union.
No.
Trying to execute that music at the level he wants us to is almost quite close to matching the intensity he was living himself. So us being able to deliver that on the stage, that impeccable, concise, accuracy and all these fast things and whatnot, to us, it's not a show of shredding or show like a technical proficiency, but rather being able to take on such a psychology so intense that we can actually perform and share this with our audience to deliver maybe a glimpse of what might have been a day in his life, or maybe a morning. We can't comprehend the intensity he went through, but this is the closest we can get and to share with other people.
Thank you very much, guys, for the explanation of these two songs. Very intense stuff, but good stuff nonetheless. For those of you watching at home, the next episode of this is going to be out there in 2 weeks. We're going to be diving into the last 2 songs in the conclusion for this record. We hope you guys will all join us once again. Feel free to drop stuff in the comments or not. I mean, it's not like we can force you to do that. Would be nice if you did, though. You know, it would really increase the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. So please do. And we hope to see you all again in 2 weeks at the next episode of Layer. So see you guys later. Bye.